My name is Ronnie Stewart. I'm from Gainesville, Georgia. I was born and raised in church. My parents are pastors, my grandparents are pastors, all my uncles and aunts are pastors. So I've been raised in church and been able to see every aspect of church and been able to help in every aspect of church when it comes to either the media department or youth ministry or kids ministry. So that's just kind of been my whole life, and I knew that I was supposed to be in ministry, but I just didn't know what aspect of ministry to go into. Being born and raised in church is a very interesting childhood. A lot of times people see pastors' kids as oh, pastors' kids are all bad kids and stuff, but in my case I was a pretty good kid. One thing that was kind of difficult about being a pastor's kid is the expectations that people have set on you, and making sure that you have to live up to this certain standard of okay, this is what your parents do, this is what your grandparents do, that means you have to do this too. That's something that sat with me for a very long time, and I would pray about it and fast about it and try to figure out, okay, am I supposed to be a pastor? Do I even want to be a pastor? If I'm not a pastor, will my family just disown me or not talk to me anymore? What am I supposed to do? When I was trying to figure out what college I wanted to go to, and I decided to end up coming to Free Chapel at that time, it was okay, am I really wanting to go to Free Chapel College because it's something that I desire? Or am I wanting to go to Free Chapel College because it's a ministry school, or it's a school where my parents are knowing of Pastor Jensen Franklin, so they'll know that I'll be in a good place where I'm safe and learning the correct things and going the right way in which I'm supposed to go. And by the time I ended up getting here, the first couple months were great. It was exciting being able to have the college life for a couple months. Even though it was ministry school, we had a lot of fun. I had dealt with depression kind of previously, just within my life and stuff, but it wasn't something that I would sit and focus on or try to dwell in, because at the time I was life's good, there's nothing to be depressed about. At the time when I started feeling the depression and stuff, one of the biggest things I knew is growing up in your household and stuff, your father's supposed to be the prayer warrior of the house. He's supposed to be the one who is the protection over the house, even though you'll have your own relationship with God, he's the head of the house. And now that I was out on my own, it was kind of just me. I had my parents at home, but I didn't have anyone there with me to be able to help me and guide me in what I was supposed to do. So getting to a place where depression started hitting me, I started having suicidal thoughts, and just a lot of things started happening, and we went on our annual Free Chapel College cabin retreat. And before we ended up leaving, I was packing my bag, and I had decided in my mind, I was I'm gonna go on this 3-day retreat, and then when I get back, I'm gonna kill myself. So we went on the 3-day retreat. I ended up telling my roommate about just everything that was going on in my mind, and we prayed and tried to seek God about everything and figure out what we needed to do. And I was in a good place until we got on the bus ride to go back home, and that's when I was I'm still gonna go through with it. That night, I was supposed to fly out to go to Maryland to visit my family at the time, and I had sat there, I went and packed my bag, and I went in the bathroom and I swallowed an entire bottle of pills, and I was just ready to end it all. I went and turned the shower on and sat in there for a second, and then I was I can't do this. I cannot do this to myself. I can't do it to my family or my friends. So I made myself puke up all of the pills, and then my roommate ended up finding the bottle, and we were able to talk about it for a couple minutes. But then I ended up flying to Maryland, and I was there for 2 weeks. And at that time, I didn't tell anybody. So those 2 weeks, I kind of just sat and dwelled in it until I got back home. I finally opened up to my family about it and talked to them. I saw Free Chapel College allows us to do counseling for free. So I went and I spoke with a counselor for a little bit and just tried to figure out what could be the cause of everything. And the biggest thing that I got to was I was at a place where I was so dependent on my family and friends back at home that when I was here on my own, I knew nothing, didn't know how to do really anything, and I was so vulnerable at the time. And I had a relationship with God, but it wasn't the right relationship with God that I needed. So being at a place where I was I don't know what to do, I kind of just gave up and did the worst. When I was about 9 or 10 years old at the time, my parents, being in ministry and stuff like that, always really busy, would have people watch us sometimes, or being able to babysit. So we had one of our friends who was really close with us. He was about 19 or so, and him and his sister came over to babysit. His sister was over in the other room with my sister, and him and I were just sitting over hanging out in my room. And when I was 9 years old, I was molested, and that was something that definitely took a big toll on me. And I think that's something that where all the depression derived from, but it's something that I'd always hidden away. And my entire life until I first came to this college, it was something that I pushed away, never told anybody I always thought, okay, like there's no way that that happened, but I know that it did because it's something that stuck with me that long. And finally, when I was able to get to a place to open up to it, that's when I was like, okay, this happened to me, but it's okay. It's in the past now. And here I am, alive, doing good and doing the Lord's work. This tattoo right here, I got it, I think it was about a month before I graduated high school. My parents, I was only 17 years old, so my parents were very like, not against tattoos because they have tattoos, but they were like, okay, if you're going to get a tattoo, like you have to make sure you research, you study, like make sure it's like the right tattoo for your first tattoo. And I was wanting to go big for my first tattoo. So I told them that I wanted to get this tattoo, and after doing research and like seeing like what I was wanting to get on my arm, I decided on getting a compass with an arrow going through it. And me being in a place of graduating high school and not knowing what I wanted to do afterwards, like I just grew up as a timid child because I was kind of sheltered as a pastor's kid. And the compass itself is for direction, and then the arrow is supposed to mean courage. So with it going through the compass, it's supposed to have courage in the direction that I choose to go in life. And I didn't know how much that meant to me at the time when I first got it, because I was like, oh, it's a cool tattoo that I got for my first tattoo. But then when it came to time of actually applying for colleges and going, I would look down at my arm and be like, wow, like this actually means a lot to me. This tattoo I got, I think it was about a year ago. It was last year, October, so not the past year, but the year before. My grandparents have always been like a big aspect in our lives because, you know, our family's always been like knit tight, being pastors and stuff. We would go visit them all the time. And at the time, we were on a cruise, and my mom got a phone call that my grandma had passed away in her sleep. And at this time, she wasn't sick or anything, like she was on medication, but it wasn't anything that we were expecting her to pass away anytime soon. So when we got that phone call, it like was really detrimental to all of us. So we had to fly out from the Bahamas to get back home, plan the funeral. And my grandma, she did a lot of online shopping. So she ordered these bracelets from Wish, and they came in a couple days after she had passed away. And on all of the bracelets was a semicolon, and there was like 3 bracelets, which was really cool because that's how many kids she ended up having. And on the bracelet was the semicolon, and it said, "My story isn't over yet." Even though she passed away, even though that she's not here with us anymore, that no matter what, us as her kids and her grandkids are here to live on her story and continue doing the Lord's work like she did. I think the biggest thing that I've learned, like not even just being here, but growing up, we're not supposed to be someone else. Like God has made you specifically to be the person that you are today, the talents that you have. And one thing that I have like learned over the past couple months, actually something that I've been like studying and reading and stuff, is I've been waiting for the moment of my breakthrough and waiting for, okay, my opportunity is going to come, my moment's going to come, but God's already came and already given us our breakthroughs. We just have to walk out the breakthrough that He's already given us.